Welcome to the Creative Bloc Podcast.
I'm excited to be here.
We have, this is our 26th episode. So we just got done doing I did like a 25th episode kind of celebratory thing because I have always been pretty bad about like celebrating like the small wins.
Yeah.
And I was talking to good friend of mine, Ross, and he was talking about how, dude, like, it's sure you're not putting out the podcast as much as possible, as much as you wanted, et cetera, and all that stuff. But like, you've made it this far. It's 25th episode. Like, you need to do something special for it. So
Right.
kind of had a little run through of like things I've learned from having a podcast and things that I want to do and how I want to transition it. So this is kind of like, I want to call it like kind of like a season 2. So
This is season 2. I'm the first guest of season 2.
So with that being said, Paula, can you introduce yourself? Kind of let us know who you are and what you do.
Well, that's a loaded question. Yeah, I can. Well, I'm Paula Ceron, and geez, I've done a lot of things, but we were actually talking about that just a little bit ago. Kind of dabble in a lot, but right now I manage a real estate investment company. Kind of run day-to-day operations, accounting, things like that. And I spend a lot of time trying to put out videos, either talking about business, talking about makeup. It's really geared toward women, and I like that. I like that it's really, I don't know, I love that my following is, I look at the analytics, and it's 80%, if not more, women that follow me, like in my age range. So I just feel like, you put out something and everyone's like, oh my goodness, like, tell me about it, tell me this or that. And ever since I started doing real estate content, I've been getting a lot of girls coming to me like, I've really wanted to start, but I feel scared, one thing or the other. And just like, I don't know, I like putting that out there. So yeah, basically just real estate and doing a little bit of content creation.
And like, even, you talk about, people reaching out and asking about how do you get, how to get started with, like, really, how did you get started with that?
Oh, I say that I was kind of like grandfathered in. My family has been running a real estate investment company for years. So since 2012, I believe, we started. Yeah, that's why it's called Metro Renovations 12. I don't know why I had to think about that. But so we've been in it for years. We started as general contractors. So and the story of how my mom got started as a general contractor is really funny. So my mom had a junkyard and it went bankrupt. She went bankrupt. It was like a hard time in the family. My mom's one of those people that, like, when she falls, she gets right back up. She was like, well, I got to find something to do. And so she and my sister signed up for real estate classes. So like to be real estate agents. And while she was at one of the networking events there, she started talking to this guy, and this guy's like, hey, do you know anyone that can do some work? And she just jumped at the opportunity. She's like, yes, of course. I've got a lot of people. She only knew people from the car business. So she's like, but I'll figure it out. He walked the property with her, and he basically, long story short, ended up managing like 25 properties for him. Like doing the construction start to finish. This is my mom, who doesn't know anything, or at the time didn't know anything about construction. She just knew how to be a boss, basically. And she started hiring people. And then that just kind of pushed us all into kind of getting into real estate, because of course in 2012 houses were like $7,000 to $17,000. Like, bro, you can't find that now, even if you, like, I don't know, sold your soul to the devil. So long story short, I got out of high school, wanted to be a screenwriter and like an actress, and it just didn't work out because of a lot of different reasons. Kind of fell in love and decided to stay in Ohio. And yeah, so my mom was like, you can't not do anything. And she pushed me to get my real estate license. And then that's kind of where it all started for me. I was 18, hated being a real estate agent, really didn't like it, and went into property management for some time. That was good, but there's a cap. I mean, it's not the family business. It's not something that you're working on for yourself. It's like you're just working for a paycheck. Right. So after my brother had been in the family business for a while. He called me up and he's like, yo, you got to come back. He was like, we're growing like crazy. You need to come back. And I was like, oh, working with family sounds kind of tough. And he was like, no, dude, you got to come back. So he calls me one day and he's like, hey, Paula, what's your cap at your job? And I was like, wait, what are you like wanting out of this? And I was like, I don't know. Let me go ask my boss. Like went and asked my boss, and basically I didn't like the answer. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I kind of got sick with COVID during the time. So like everything just kind of aligned and I quit. And then a little bit after started working with Metro and haven't looked back.
And how has that like dynamic been like working with the family?
Kind of tough. I'm not going to lie. Working with family isn't always the easiest thing ever. But I mean, at the end of the day, you just have so much trust in them. Like, you know that they want the best for you. Like, sometimes we bicker and fight and everything, but we're still all on the same team. So it's just like reminding ourselves of that.
Yeah, it's I could definitely see the challenges that I mean hell like we're not even really in family business. You know,
Right.
you that whole dynamic. I even feel like it's unique too with like a Latino family compared to like other ethnicities.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could from at least from my experience, like I could understand how it could be very challenging.
No, the first time that I started working, right after I got my real estate license, I tried to work with them. My brother was just starting with my mom too. And my mom's kind of cutthroat. She'll fire you. She'll get rid of you. She's like, if you're not doing your job, you're out. Basically, like no one's getting anything for free. So I started working there. And one day my mom and I started like fighting about something. Granted, at the time I wasn't doing a great job. Like I was lazy, just not putting the effort that I should have been. But my mom and I were fighting about something and I can't remember what it was anymore. But long story short, she just throws her phone at me, like just straight up goes, boom. And I was just like, oh, I actually am very proud of the way that I reacted to that. I like grabbed her phone, put it on the table. I was like, please act with professionalism. Like this passive aggressiveness coming out of me. I was like, trying to be the bigger person, like a little 18-year-old that doesn't know anything.
Yeah, yeah. That's that brings a lot of for me at least brings a lot of memories of like stuff like that.
Getting hit by your mom.
Yeah, como like la chancla.
No, we were actually talking with my cousin when he was here. I call him my cousin. He's my mom's best friend from like her whole entire life, son. And he was here and we were talking about how like my mom and his mom are so similar. And he told me that she wears gold rings or his mom wears gold rings, and she would start like putting her hand up and kind of like shaking it a little bit, like gently, to show like how much her hand weighed. She was like, oh, like my hand weighs a lot with these gold rings, because she would bitch slap you like that. And it was like, bro, my mom would do the same thing. Like she would like purposely smack you with the hand that she had the rings on. And if she was going to slap you with this side of the hand, like with the inner part of the hand, she would flip over her rings and just smack. She's going to get mad if she hears all this, but whatever.
Wait, we don't condone child abuse on this podcast.
Glow Money knows what she did. No, good thing I don't have any traumas.
No, I don't know. It's I feel like it's unique too, especially like I think times are a little bit different now, but at least with how I grew up, like that's kind of how it was, you know, especially with the Latino family. Like
I was going to say, I don't get mad at it because I most definitely deserved it. And like, I know I deserve those like backhand slaps and just.
oh yeah, for at least for me too, and like it's interesting too because like looking back at it, like I feel that sure a lot of people probably don't agree with that kind of stuff, but I feel like it helped me develop the character that I have today.
Yeah.
And yeah, like my mom was like even to this day she's still like, even though she's a lot gentler to the grandkids.
Yeah, of course.
But she's like no nonsense, zero tolerance for, you know, if you're acting
Right.
up, if you're acting out of line, then you're acting out of line. You know, she'll call you out on it. So I kind of go into, you know, kind of get into the family business, and I imagine that there has been, you know, you've kind of before we started talking, we were talking about like the journey, right?
Yeah.
And what has that been like for you, as been working there for some time, and I imagine you've kind of been moving around with like your different responsibilities and even just kind of finding, what you want to get into for yourself.
Geez, I think that honestly, the whole, like how I can resume my whole trajectory in my adult life and even a little bit of like my young adult years, I would say everything like co-lines with how my confidence is at the moment. At times when I was kind of not doing anything and just like feeling, I don't know, like I unmotivated and things like that, it typically was because I had low self-confidence in the moment. Like I was just kind of like, oh, I can't, like I'll use YouTube as an example. When I started YouTube, I was like 16 and I started it and got amazing feedback. Like I remember my first video got like 250,000 views. And like my second one, I was consistently getting a bunch of views. I had just off the bat like 14K subscribers. Like it was going good. And then my confidence, my self-confidence like went down and I was like, I'm not going to get in front of a camera. I'm not going to like, like that type of thing. And then when I started thinking about it with real estate, I was like, oh shoot, I did the same thing with real estate at the beginning. I hated being a real estate agent, but I think I hated it because I didn't give myself the opportunity to do it. And I think that now that I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and I really dedicated a lot of time to self-improvement books, podcasts, all of that different stuff, I realized, you know what? I have a lot of self-worth now, and that's just helped me keep pushing through some of the obstacles and those moments when I'm not motivated, and have kind of brought me to where I'm at now, where I'm happy. There's still a lot more that I want to do and to come, but I'm genuinely proud. I saw a picture of when I was like 16, I think, and I just remember the way that I thought back then about myself, and I was like, shoot, that girl would be so proud of me now. Like if she would know what Paula at 23 would be like, she would be ecstatic, So I guess from here on out, continue to work on that self-confidence and then a lot of content creation. I'm going to put out more videos on TikTok, more videos on YouTube. YouTube's been tough because editing takes a long time.
Yeah, and to that tune of like, self-improvement and being able to, find that self-confidence. I mean, that's something I feel like a lot of us struggle with that. I mean, myself included. I've suffered a lot from imposter syndrome and like not feeling, I don't know. I have like this image of like what what my potential could be, and I get really like not so much like when comparing with others, but I feel that I know when I'm not living up to those standards, right, or not meeting those expectations or those standards, and that kind of like, oh shit, like I know I could be doing better. And there's sometimes I feel like I get caught in this like trap of like, I just realize like, oh well, I'm not meeting those expectations, and it just kind of puts me in this downward spiral of like not being able to. It just gets worse. Like once I realize like, hey, I'm not meeting those expectations, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I end up getting caught in this like trap of, yeah, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to. I'm not as motivated with like the kind of work that I do, things that I'm involved with, the podcast. This is the second year, and like I talk about it every episode, but I feel like for me, I mention it because it's a reminder of like why I started it, why I'm doing it, and like the first year, I picked up a lot of traction. I was very excited with it, and then halfway through, I don't want to say that I got bored with it, but uh, I felt that I wasn't meeting those expectations, and then I kind of started to lose interest in that.
Yeah.
And then time passed, and people were asking, "Hey, Luis, where's the podcast? What's going on? What happened?" And then like that itself kind of put me like, oh shit, like now I'm kind of embarrassed now, but like, hey, I started doing this thing, wanted to keep doing it, and then I stopped. And then going into this second year now, I've picked up a lot of traction, and I've had a lot of self-discovery in the last year and a half, I would say, where not only being able to, improve that self-confidence, but just being able to like prioritize my time and like being able to like put energy towards things that are gonna improve my life, whether not necessarily with just work, but with just like everyday things, being more active. I mean, like if you would have seen me a year and a half ago, it's like 40 pounds heavier and all that. Like it just like little things like that, I feel like has allowed me to just kind of trigger like this different train of thought or way of thinking for me that it's like, yes, everything's not gonna be, good all the time, and you're not gonna be meeting those expectations or working at a 100% all the time, but being able to, when you have those times of like self-doubt or you're not feeling yourself, that you're able to kind of take a step back and realize like, okay, well, let me refocus why I'm doing this, why I want to do that, and where is it that I want to go. And it's kind of allowed me to, you know, once I fall off the wagon,
Sometimes.
to get back on.
Right. But sometimes it takes giving yourself a little bit of grace, because what ends up happening, what I've seen time and time again, is you kind of fall into that, right? Like the unmotivation or not being motivated, what have you. And then you start believing you're that type of person. You're like, oh, I'm not the type of person that finishes things, or I'm not the type of person that can lose weight, or I'm not the type of person that's going to take on something new. I'm not the type of person that takes risks. And at the end of the day, you can be that person. You're just not allowing yourself to be that person. You're the only obstacle in your way. That's kind of what I as I started realizing that, crazy enough, I had been trying to lose weight for 5 years, like 5 straight years of consistently like trying to go to the gym, eating really healthy, and then falling off the wagon. Because, it took me 2 weeks of being really, really good. And then after that second week, I'm like, this isn't me. Like, what? Like, it was the self sabotage. I was like, bro, I know this is going to end at some point. So let's just do it now. And then it was just like, "Rah." And then it wasn't until like recently where I really started to like prioritize myself, like mind, body, soul type thing, like everything in one. I realized I hadn't even noticed. And I've lost like 30 pounds. And everyone's like, you look so different. And I'm like, damn, I do. And then I like started realizing like nothing fits, like one thing. And I just realized like I stopped thinking that I was the type of person that, like, I just would say, oh, I'm just heavy set. No, bro, I was an athlete in high school, like, and all throughout my childhood. Like, I know I'm athletic. I was just allowing myself to fall into that thinking. So it's sometimes just rewiring your brain.
Yeah, and like I feel like you kind of have to. I find myself every so often kind of recalibrating, what that looks like. And I mean, even right now, and it's going into like this new season of the podcast and being able to do more things. Like I want to be continue to show up and do more. It's funny you mentioned, giving yourself grace, because the last lady that we had on a podcast, Dakota, that was like the big theme of the podcast. The whole episode was being able to give yourself grace,
Yeah.
and not only to understanding that, like, yes, you may not be at 100% right now, but you are making progress and taking the incremental steps to like get where it is that you want to be.
Yeah.
So like I feel like that's, people in general we don't give ourselves that opportunity, and that opportunity enough to do that. So I think that's really important. And like, what else has been, what other things were like played a big role in, so like you kind of rewiring your way of thinking?
Dang, it just actually started thinking. It, it's kind of a lot of different things. So I'll start off first by changing my environment. I changed my environment. I was in a place where I was just not happy anymore, and it was stepping away from that. Like, let's say even I just changed apartments. Like, I didn't live in the same place. I wasn't doing the same things that I was always doing. Like, I kind of stepped away from that, and putting yourself in a new environment around new people helps, especially if you put yourself around the right people. And at least find people that are going to be in your life on like a daily basis that you either admire, can learn from, like is going to actually push you forward. Because a lot of times we surround ourselves by people that kind of let you go down like bad, just bad roads, bad things, because they're wanting to do it too. You know what I mean? So, long story short, first and foremost, change my environment. Second, I got a therapist, and therapy helped out a lot. I realized that when I was younger, my mom and my dad would always say, you are the smartest out of, like our kids, or you're so smart. Like, you're going to be so much, and like all of these things. And I was telling my therapist, she was like, well, at any point, did you feel belittled? And I was like, no. I was like, I felt like I was on a pedestal. I felt like, and she was like, oh, so it's literally the opposite. She was like, they might have put you on such a high pedestal where you felt like you were never actually going to meet that expectation. So you always had this second guessing of yourself, like, oh, am I really smart? Or is it just their perception of me? Is it really like that? Or is it just what people think or what I project? And then inside I'm in like, am I right? Am I not right? Like, you know what I mean? And finally, just prioritizing myself.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about surrounding yourself with people that kind of help
Propel you.
not only propel you, but I feel like, hold you accountable. And like, I can say that for me, having the close group of friends that I have now, it's really been monumental in like us sitting here having this conversation right now. I mean, hell, even, just a couple of weeks ago, I was kind of going through some things, and, just talking to like my friend group and being able to, they're like, yeah, you need to get your shit together. You're kind of slacking off or whatever. And like, there's a lot to be said about, having people close to you that can help keep you accountable and like keep you in check whenever, you are having that doubt and kind of falling off the wagons,
right,
so to speak, that, they can help you, nudge you into the right direction, whether it's like having a difficult conversation and telling like, hey, you're slacking off, you need to get your shit together, or hey, I mean, if that's what you really want to do like that, then you're not going to be able to do this other thing that you've been talking about, that you've been wanting to do. So, what are you going to do? That for me, like that's been really big for me too, like having people like that around that, that can hold you accountable. And like, I don't know, I've had other friends before where we would have conversations like that, and then they would just be like, okay, well, if you don't want to do it, then whatever, like, you don't want to do it.
right.
But it's like, I don't know, I don't consider like holding your hand, but just holding you accountable and just telling you like, yo, like, you need to get your shit together, bro. Like, are you still trying to do this thing? Well, you're not. What you're doing now, you're not going to be able to get there. So
Exactly.
So-
Just, I completely agree. That people just actually caring, that shows to me that the people that are around you actually care about you. It's like, I wouldn't just tell my little brother, you know what, you don't want to do homework, don't do it, because like, or practice or whatever. He wants to be an athlete. He wants to play lacrosse in college. So I'm like, what if he just stopped going to practice? Would I just tell him, oh yeah, don't do it? I know how much he wants it. So I would obviously be like, hey buddy, you're not doing enough. If you want to get there, you need to do more, So I started thinking about it, like, why are the people around me not pushing me, or not even pushing, but like even care enough to say like, hey, how is this going or that going? And now I'm around people that really push me. Like, I have a friend, Donald, who he's always on my case, like out of nowhere. And he's a busy man, and he just like sometimes comes up to me or messages me. He's like, hey fam, how's a makeup game going? Like, you need to get on it. And I'm like, you're right. I need to make more videos of me doing it, because it's something that I enjoy, and I know that it's something that I can not only benefit from, but benefit, like, it's something that's going to make me feel good.
So I guess with that, like, we could transition a little bit into, like the content creation and some of the things that you do. Because I remember when we first met, was through mutual friend Karen, that you started a podcast.
Yeah.
And you did that for some time. But even before that, I remember, you mentioned you did the YouTube, and I don't know, I've always seen you kind of like dabble into like little different things, whether it's like makeup or, like even now with like the real estate things. Like, talk about your journey with like content creation as a whole. Because I feel like, we've had this conversation before. While yes, you're not like a traditional, like videographer or whatever,
Yeah.
like that, but it's, things are different now, and I feel everybody has to have you know, if you're trying to aspire to have some kind of be entrepreneur, have some presence, be known, be considered as an authority of like whatever, that you need to have, you know, you need to create content, whether it's you're creating it yourself or somebody's filming it for you, etc. But
Someone, but
what has that been like for you? And like as you've kind of like dabbled into like different things, and you know, you mentioned a little bit that you kind of want to get into like the whole makeup space.
yeah. Makeup isn't necessarily like the main focus that I want to get into. Honestly, it's more so kind of that woman empowerment. I just feel like sometimes we get put in these boxes. That's why I don't really care if my, like, let's say TikTok that I've been posting a lot more on is some makeup, some dancing, some real estate, and everything like that. I might not have a specific niche, but I do. And it comes down to women who are badasses. They're out, you know, building their businesses, whether it's a lash tech, whether it's someone who owns a clothing brand, or it's someone who also invests in real estate. I think that us as women can really resonate with the fact that you can be this boss, you can be this one thing or the other, but at the end of the day, like, we like the fashion, we like the makeup, we like the, you know, all of those things, and it's just like we're not just one thing. So at the end of the day, I just decided, I was like, I'm gonna put out authentically who I am throughout. You know, when I like to do makeup, I'm doing makeup. If I want to dance, I love to dance, I'm gonna do some dances. If I want to talk about real estate, because I came up with this idea of like a topic to talk about that I think that can help people, I'm gonna do it. You know, like I want it to be more so a growth, like grow with me. I'm not a expert at any of it, but hey, let's go along on the journey together.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting too, because I feel like, yes, while you may not have a very specific niche, you kind of do, because there is a niche of people that have the same interests as you. And at the end of the day, like, I guess the niche is just being yourself, right?
Yeah, it's weird because I honestly have gotten so many, just so much feedback from different women, like, and they're like, thank you, I love that. Or, you know, whether it's like sometimes they'll be asking me, hey, I'm getting my real estate license, like what can you recommend, like what advice do you have? And then, you know, 3 weeks later they're commenting on my post like, oh my goodness, what's your nighttime routine? Or, you know, like, or hey, where do you get that shirt from? Or, you know, one thing or the other. And I'm like, you're right, like people just, they want to be inspired, and I can't inspire people if I'm not being genuinely me. So at
Right.
the end of the day, yeah, I do real estate. I love doing real estate. I've got specific goals when it comes to that. But at the same time, I have specific goals when it comes to content creation, because I want to not showcase it, but just almost expose it. Like I want to show what it's like, what every day is like. Obviously, every day isn't perfect, but I think that my personal brand is that. And then I'm actually starting a brand with my brother, starting with a podcast that we're doing called Rico Talk. And I'll get into why it's called that in a sec. But that is going to be very business oriented, where the topics are going to be not like everyday, like, no, it's going to be, you know, investments, crypto, business, and all of those different things, because that's also an aspect of my life and something that I think that people can benefit from. But at the end of the day, my personal brand as Paula Ceron, like who I am, is a culmination of everything that I put out. You know, very girly, very like love soccer, play soccer three, four times a
I see
week.
those sometimes.
Oh, you know, like it's just everywhere. It's a little bit of everything, but at the same time, I think we're all kind of like that. So why am I gonna like just show one part of my life?
Yeah, I mean that's awesome, because I feel like within that, like you're not only, as we talk, we talked about like the whole self discovery, like you're able to, within being yourself and like putting that out there, you could help somebody else who might be trying to figure shit out themselves, and I don't know, I think it's also like that's one of the reasons too why I enjoy having a podcast as well, is that regardless of how many people are listening or are engaged, like the people that do listen, they do gain something from it, because I can tell from not just from the numbers, but from the engagement that I have. People either message me or they'll say, hey, I listened to the podcast with so and so, or I've had guests say that, hey, you know, the conversation that we had touched so many people because I'm getting hit up by a lot of people, or they're
Right.
asking questions, and just being able to see that, it means a lot that what you are putting out there really is, re- whether it's one, five, 100, whatever, like it is resonating with somebody. So like I feel like you're kind of doing a disservice to yourself and to others, right, by not putting that out.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's what makes you feel good. Like what is making you feel good in the moment? Are you doing that? And if not, like if I were putting this stuff out to gain, like, let's say, followers or money or one thing or the other, just because I thought that it was like a business plan or whatever, I'm not really enjoying myself, and that's going to translate. People resonate with content when they feel someone being genuine. And so, excuse me. And so as I discovered myself a little bit more throughout these years and just building that self-confidence, I realized this is who I am. I'm comfortable and I like showcasing it. And if someone doesn't like it, if I'm not their cup of tea, that's perfect. I personally don't have anything to prove to them. That's just who I am. And I don't like everybody either, like there's people that, unfortunately they just don't vibe with me. They don't, and that's fine. But like, you can't just expect yourself to be like perfect to everyone. My mom and dad had this saying, and it's like a Spanish saying, but like, no se crea una monedita de oro. Which means like you're not a gold coin, only a gold coin will everyone love. Like everyone would love a gold coin, but other than that, like you're not a gold coin. So stop trying to act like you're just gonna be friends with it. Everyone's gonna like you, like all of these things. Just let it go. Once you let that stuff go, you're really gonna find that you're gonna be a lot happier, and you're gonna see that you're going to progress authentically. Like you are going to turn into the best version of yourself. So you're not doing things for other people.
Like literally when that happens, like for me, every time that once I kind of tune all that stuff out, that's when the most growth, I've noticed that's where the most growth happens, whether it's the amount of people that listen to podcasts, people that are engaged, whether it's the kind of work that I do. Yeah, like I've, even with like the videography thing, I feel like I got caught in that as well, where I started making some money from it, and then I started, okay, well, I just started doing everything solely on what the monetary value was going to be. And then I started getting involved with projects and things that didn't really align with my values and with what I wanted to do with my goals, that and then I ended up having a bad experience from it. So even now, whatever work I do, regardless of whether I'm getting a big fat check or I'm doing it for free or I'm helping somebody out, like I'm only really doing that if I feel it's gonna align, if it aligns with my values and with my beliefs, and it's gonna help me, you know, get closer to whatever those goals are that I'm trying to achieve. So it's not like, yeah, I go into like any project, it not so much as to like why, the financial gain that it's gonna, that's gonna be tied to it, but more along the lines of like, how is this gonna help me grow as a person, as a creative, and is this something that I not only can I benefit from, but also that I could, provide like a very good value to whoever that person is.
Yeah.
So it's like it really does go hand in hand, and like being able to like just really be true to yourself, and like whether it's like with the content that you put out, and with even with the work that you do, because I feel like it's, I don't know, a lot of people pay attention, people care about the, like all the vanity metrics and like all these other things that are, I don't want to say like I feel like they kind of hold you back, and like yes, those are elements that like matter, right? Like if if you're running a business, you need to be making money or whatever, but at the same time, like it's not.
What I feel like sometimes happens to people is that they start only doing what feels good. You know what I mean? So like it's like a balance, like everything. A balance like everything. You have to do what makes you feel good morally, like what makes you feel good in spirit. But there's going to be days that you have to put in work that's not going to feel the best, but it's not feeling bad about you as a person. It's just kind of like uncomfortability because that's what's making you grow. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people do look at the numbers and they're not super content with the numbers. That's okay. There's going to be days that you look in and you're like, oh, shoot, this only got, half the regular views or half the regular engagement or whatever. That's not going to feel too comfortable. But if your end goal is still in sight and your end goal is more than just the numbers, you're going to keep going. It's keeping that goal in mind. Keep your goals in mind. Do what makes you feel good in spirit. And then allow yourself those moments of uncomfortability because those are growth pains. And that's how you're going to keep on taking a new step and new step and new step on that little staircase to wherever the hell you're going.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like, yeah, with anything, like I tell my kids now, like that's, what do you want to do? Like it's, I don't know. I feel that, a lot of times they express interest in like different things, and I'm very encouraging in that. So like, okay, if that's what you want to do, then okay, let's do more of this. Like my youngest, she wants to like make YouTube videos and do this and that. I was like, okay, well, let's film some videos. Let's do this and that. And
yeah, I wish my dad was a creative when I came home and I was like, hey, I wanna do YouTube. They're like, what is YouTube? And I'm like, guys.
yeah, so it's funny. Like sometimes we'll like we'll record something, and even just like the whole recording process, she doesn't realize like, oh well, like this is a lot of work. She's like, no, yeah, it's not just like, yes, you can just press record and do whatever, but it's they're to tell a story of doing this and that, and like I like to encourage them to like, okay, if this is what you want to do, then yes, you have to like put in the work, you have to do it. Like my son, he started running track this year, and playing like multiple sports. He's going into high school and like just playing multiple sports and stuff that, like, okay, well, if you want to go, then, you need to get up early to go to the gym. Or if you, if you're trying to get stronger, then we need to get up early to go to the gym because you have school, we have all this other stuff going on. So, if that's what you want to do, then let's do it. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people, when the going gets tough, you kind of give up and not really, what I'm trying to say, like I'm trying to recall, like there was something that we had a similar conversation a couple episodes ago, but it was along the lines of like when things start to get difficult, a lot of people give up, and that's what holds a lot of people back, right? When they're trying to get to like their, whatever their goal is. That with anything, it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, and then you kind of pick up this traction where, like you said earlier, where you're feeling good, everything's working, everything's going fine, but then when it kind of starts to go down a little bit and you kind of get stuck in this rut of like, it's hard work, you're trudging through water and like through mud rather, and like you're stuck.
Yeah.
And like I feel like a lot of people kind of give up in that. Once they get into like that phase, they kind of tend to give up, and I don't know, I feel like in that phase, you kind of have all those things that we've been talking about, whether it's the negativity, people around you, and things like that. And I feel like there's a lot that I feel like needs to be done, to be able to break out of that and be able to, achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve.
I feel like it's all mindset too.
I mean, that's really what it boils down to, right? It's like that is really the catalyst for whether you get out of bed in the morning or you just stay and do nothing all day.
Right. Like my brother, he makes me laugh. My brother's had one of the like most extreme character developments I've ever seen, like ever. But he basically just like right now is on his grind. Like he's doing so many amazing things and everything. And I always see him, getting home, working till like 12, 1, like taking calls, doing stuff on the computer. And I see him, he's the first one out the door, always the first one at the office. Like he's on his shit. And I'm like, dude, how are you not tired? Like one thing and the other. And he's like, I'm built different. And I'm like, dude, he's like, no, I gotta brainwash myself. If not, I'm gonna like fucking explode because I'm so fucking tired. And
yeah,
okay,
sure,
sorry, that just kind of slipped out. But he's just like, I can't keep going if I don't convince myself that I am destined for so much that it doesn't even matter all this work that I'm putting in. It's all gonna get me there. Like, he just truly believes it. And I'm like, you know what? You just kind of brainwash yourself sometimes.
No, yeah, for sure. And like it's, I don't know, and like it really is like you mentioned something earlier too, that you kind of are like your own worst enemy, right? Because yeah, if you don't tell yourself that yes, you need to get your shit together, you need to get out of bed, you need to do whatever, like you kind of let the other person take over, and you don't end up doing anything.
It's really you. You are your only limitation in everything. And it's crazy because it's so true that sometimes it makes me mad, because I know that if I fail at something, it's not all those excuses that I'm trying to put forth and just, oh, this and that to make me feel better. It's genuinely because either I didn't try as hard, because I didn't apply myself. It's literally because of me. No one else, I can say, oh, it's because I was distracted because I had to deal with this, that, and the third. No, if you wanted to, you would. And that's like now my motto. Like, I try not to create too many excuses. Like, when I don't do something in the business, my brother like kind of confronts me on it. He's like, why is this? And I don't try to put up excuses like this and that. I'm like, hey, messed up, like overlook that or this, own up to it. Let's move forward. How is that not going to happen again? And if you don't take things in like failures like that, you're just going to dwell on them. Like, you got to literally take it. Okay, own up to it. I failed because of this, that, and the third. And now how can I fix those three things? Okay, this is how I do it. Okay, next time I'm not going to fail that same way. And you just keep on moving forward. And I don't know, just being around people that are very successful, that I find successful, that I admire, that I want to be like, and seeing them be like that has just, like I said, shifted me. It's that change in environment. It took me from people that were, unfortunately hating their jobs, were ready to clock out. I was around that, 9 hours a day, and then going back home and just being like, ugh, gotta go back at it tomorrow. And now seeing people that are like, no, we're here, we're doing it. We're here, we're doing it, we're gonna go for it. And like, it's just different. Everyone's on a lot of stress level because, like, working for yourself or like owning a business or doing something like that,
It's all on you.
it's all on you. But at the end of the day, that's I find that is kind of the secret. I heard one time, and it was amazing, the like hardest things to do in life are the simplest. And I didn't really get it until he like used weight loss as an example. And he was like, weight loss isn't hard. It's not. Like, it is, but it isn't. He's like, how do you lose weight? Eat in a deficit and you work out. Is that hard? Do you not understand that concept? Everyone in the crowd is like, no, well, yeah. And he's like, now can you do it? And everyone's like, and it's like, shoot, the hardest things are also the simplest to comprehend. It's just getting past yourself, like really getting past yourself to get there.
I mean, it's very challenging. I mean, you talk about like, working for yourself, that it's wild that like how much it like controls you, that even in this grand scheme of that, where, you're wholly dependent on, you getting up and getting work done because
Yeah.
bills got to get paid, things have to happen, got to keep the lights on. And that even sometimes in the midst of that, people tend to just be like, well, fuck it, like, go well,
Yeah.
I'll not do this thing or not take this job. And I've been guilty of that too, where there's times where like I, turn down opportunities or refuse to do things just because either I'm not feeling it, or, and it's not just about like, giving myself a break or doing whatever. It's like, I'm really just like, I don't give a fuck. And I'm like, I don't feel like doing this and I don't want to bother. And, it's taken for me, it has been really having people in my corner that call me out on shit like that, or be like, hey, or even just checking in of like, hey, you good, man? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Because if not, then let's, what needs to happen because you've told us that you're trying to do all these things. We're not seeing it. So
Right.
what's going on? So for me, that's been really big for me.
You're totally right. Having those people in your corner. That's actually why me and my brother, like this whole conversation has been the reason why me and my brother really kind of wanted to do our podcast to begin with, because at the end of the day, it's reminding people of that, of not letting themselves fall into it. And like our podcast name is Rico Talk. Rico in Spanish, is rich. So rich talk. And we wanted to give it a Spanish kind of flair in there because I think the whole story, and I touched a little bit on my mom and my dad's story, but not too much. But basically their personal story is so inspirational. And then us and our story and the way that we grew up, I feel like a lot of people can identify with it, especially like first generation immigrants in America, and feeling kind of that, oh shoot, this isn't anything I knew, And that's why we want to give it the Spanish flair, like, hey, anyone can do it, even you, that we like kind of identify with each other. And then Rico Talk, it's not about just money. It's not rich talk as in money. It's like rich in mind, rich in like spirit. Like you need to change so many different things before you start actually getting that money. It really all starts up here.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's wild because us sitting here talking about all this stuff. Like I'm still like in the back of my head, like, man, like, it's really a struggle, and it really takes a lot, whether it's, for me is reading podcasts, having conversations like this has been very helpful to, for me to kind of get out of my head. It's going back to more reasons why I started a podcast is just to be able to have conversations. It's really bad for me sometimes, even going back, right? Have 25 episodes before this that I've been able to look back on and I've taken away like little things from each conversation that has brought me so much value that it's, literally why I'm still here and why I want to continue having these conversations. So with that being said, like I know we've talked a little bit about, you've talked about wanting to start the podcast and what that's going to look like. Have you guys actually started recording?
We recorded the first episode, and really it has been just not prioritizing our time. It's also two of us. So my brother's, if I'm busy, he's like 3 times more busy. I just described his life. Like first one at the office, literally 1 a.m. This man still has his laptop on, like doing stuff. So he has limited time for it. And I get that. He's got his set of goals. And he really wants to do the podcast. He actually was like, hey, when is our next episode recording? I was like, hell yeah, I'm glad that you're on board with this, because I know it's a sacrifice for him to even put aside the time to talk for, an hour, 2 hours to do it. But yeah, just recording it for me, it's been a sacrifice on, oh shoot, I'm the one that has to dedicate the most time to it, because I need to learn first how to work all this equipment, which isn't that easy, because we want to put out something of quality. Okay. And I feel like because of the people in our industry that, have great platforms, know a lot, experts, like we want to bring them onto something good. Like we want to bring not only the people that listen to our podcast great value, but also it incentivizes people that are of high value and high knowledge to come onto the podcast. They're not just going to come into my basement with like 2 iPhone, microphones and be like, hey, we're talking about like how to make millions of dollars. Like, bro, you know what I mean? Like, that's not how it works in the grand scheme of things. So that's been my main focus with the podcast. And that's why it's taken so long to actually put it. I think we've been working on it for about 1.5 years. And it's just been like really putting together something good to put out. I just decided recently, I was like, I need to stop being a perfectionist. Like it just needs to come out at this point, and I will figure it out more and more as we go. So it's, again, balance.
So work in progress. Yeah, I mean, and like I know we talked, I think it was about 1 year ago when we talked about it. And I don't know, maybe like I tell you, the doors here are open. We could come record here if need be, and we can figure something out. But I think it's awesome that you're actually
Yeah.
you know it's starting to come together, because I know when we first talked about it about a year ago, it was kind of just an idea, and now
Yeah.
it's more solidified, and it'll come together.
Yeah. It's hard work, but I and my brother too, but we believe in it. We really do. I mean, if, a college dropout, two college dropouts, me and him are both college dropouts. Like if we like used to be just w- doing nothing for our lives, like if I'm being honest, like it was just kind of like this, oh, we just want to
Going through the
party,
motions.
yeah, like type people can come back and turn a family business from, doing a quarter million in sales to 5 million in a year. Like that's because changes were made, dedication was given, and it just shows everyone can progress into that if that's what you want to do. Like I again see my brother, I'll share this story because I think it's funny. Like one time his gas got cut off and he's like, I don't have any money for gas. And I was like, I think 17 at the time. He calls me, he's like, I don't have any gas. It was winter. I was like, I'll send you the money for the gas. And, like him is now like developing like multi-family buildings. You know what I mean? Like it's just working his ass off, like has a family. Like I just realized that what it takes to be part of like those highly successful people is so much less than we really think. We think we have so many more limitations. And again, the simplest things are the hardest, and it's controlling your mind. Like you're the only one that can limit yourself. You're the only one putting a ceiling over your head, but at the same time, now control it.
Right.
Like now now stop being insecure. Like you know what I mean? It's halfway impossible, but it's so simple.
And I feel like that. I mean, that's really no better way to put it. And like I think so. I guess as we start to wrap it up, what are we touched on a little bit on like how can you break those limitations, right? Um, as we kind of I guess give some closing thoughts on what I guess something actionable that has worked for you, or you've seen that's worked for others that can help you break those limitations, because I feel like there's we environment is really big, um, but I even think we get I'm on social media all day.
Yeah.
We all are. There's there's a lot. I mean, your environment, that's not necessarily the people that you're physically talk to, that you engage with, but the content that you consume, things that you read, things that you listen to. I mean, that's I feel like that does play a role into like environment. But um, for me, being more active physically, I like cycling. Like I've gotten real big into like mountain biking. If I'm not mountain biking, I'm out on the road riding somewhere,
Yeah.
and like it's been fun. Like for me, not only that, like that's something I get to do with my son, but I can also, it's allowed me to be more physically active. Like I may not be in the gym every day, but like you catch me on a bike somewhere, whether it's
Yeah.
cold, snowing, whatever, like I'll be doing that. Oh, but for me, like that allows me to kind of recalibrate. And if I'm down, or if I in my feelings or whatever, like go out, let's go out for a ride, let's go do something, play basketball, do something, and like that kind of I feel like it recalibrates me. Or sometimes a conversation with that friend that's telling me like, yo, you need to get your shit together. We kind of talk things out, and that allows me to kind of get out of my head and be like, refocus, and we do that. So as we start to wrap up, what are some other things that you feel like could be very helpful, or that have been very helpful for you?
For sure. So I'm going to recommend two books, and they are thick. So it's going to take a while if you're not used to reading. But first is The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem. And I'll touch a little bit, I guess I'll touch on it before talking about the other book. Talks about esteemable actions. It talks about how nothing can influence your self-esteem but you. And that, again, takes away the responsibility from others and puts it on yourself, because you're the only thing you can actually control. That's the only thing you can control. So esteemable actions are things that you find esteemable in other people and yourself. So like, let's say I really value people that are on time, right? And then I say, hey, I'll be there like today. I was like, hey, I'll be there at 6, Luis, and I actually got here at 6:10, like for example. that's not really an esteemable action because I'm not doing something that I actually put value in. If I want to feel better about myself and I say, you know what, I really value being on time, and then I don't put any effort into being on time, I'm never going to help build up that esteem, that self-esteem in that regard. So esteemable actions and really paying attention to what you value in other people, that can be an example, what you value in yourself. Like for me, it was going to the gym, being active, as you just said, that makes you feel good. Those are esteemable actions. When you go ride your bike, you come back home and you're feeling good about yourself. When I go to the gym, I get back home and I feel like I'm on top of the world because I'm actually dedicating time to doing esteemable actions. So the book has a lot of other great information and tips. And again, 6 pillars of self-esteem and building it. And then the second one is the book Mindset. Yeah, that's what it's called. It talks about fixed mindset and growth mindset. And I think a lot of people believe, and what happened to me, I was in the fixed mindset, where I believed, okay, I'm this, can't turn myself into something else, and to put an example, like I talked about earlier, my parents said I was really smart. And the moment that I might have done something that wasn't smart, that was irresponsible, that wasn't mature, because they said, you're so immature, you're so intelligent for your age or whatever. I didn't do something, and then they would come back to me. They were like, that was so dumb of you, or that was so, irresponsible. Like, oh my goodness, you're so immature. I would feel so poorly about myself because I couldn't accept that, yes, I'm smart. No, I didn't do a smart thing, but I can do a smart thing later. Like it was either black or white. There was no gray area. Where growth mindset, you can really, like anything, you believe that you can accomplish it because everything is buildable. Like you feel like, okay, I might not know how to do podcasting now, but I can, and I'll learn how. And all of those things kind of culminate into every aspect of your life. So those are the 2 books I recommend, and those are the reasons why. And just dedicating time to yourself.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't do that, and I feel like that's where for me, I have to, whether it's going out for a bike ride, making time for like that, whether it's, reading something, listening to a podcast, or doing something that's just like for me, not like family. For me, family is really important. Like that's literally 110% the reason why I do a lot of the things is for,
Right.
for the family. But I feel that if I'm not able to dedicate that time for myself, I cannot put myself in a position to continue to provide for my family, or to, to do the things that I aspire to do. If I don't spend that time, whether it's reflecting, doing something like that's going to help me, that's just like for me and not for anybody else. Because there are times where I get caught up and I get real busy with work, whether it's running kids back and forth to practices, school events, etc., and working, and then I don't get to have that time for myself. Like I kind of lose that calibration and kind of
Totally.
I start to feel it, and it's very noticeable, like it's, yeah. So it is very important to like dedicate time to yourself and to just get better.
Yeah, totally. I agree. You can't, it's almost like the saying, like you can't love another person if you don't love yourself. It's literally like that. You can't give people, dedication if you can't dedicate anything to yourself. You just aren't 100% there.
So with that being said, Paula, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and I think I would like to have, once you guys get the podcast going, whatever, like I definitely want to have you come back on, or
joy episode. That would be fun.
I think so. I would like to have a conversation like centered around like topics and stuff like that. One of the cool things about the podcast, I feel that I enjoy just getting to, know more about people, getting to know them, like why they do things, how they, what their come up story was, but also being able to like for me, when I consume a lot of content, I enjoy hearing like the backstory, but also being able to get into their mind into like very specific things, like this is how they do things or whatever. So like, yeah, we we definitely would love to have you come back, and
For sure.
we can talk about different things. So hopefully, the podcast has taken off, and then we could be talking about that, how that experience has been like for you. So I guess could kind of now just kind of plug in your socials where you want people to hear you. If there's anything you want to share.
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Paula Ceron, and that will have a link to my YouTube channel. And then my TikTok is at soy, so I am in Spanish, soy Paula Ceron. And our podcast, make sure that you tune into the podcast. You can check us out on Instagram, and you'll be able to get all the info on when the first episode is live on there. And that is at Rico Talk Podcast.
Also, so Paula, thank you. Muchas gracias. It was a pleasure talking to you.
A ti, muchas gracias.
Until next
This
time.
was a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.